Mackenzie Shirilla was the one who was the main topic in the Netflix documentary The Crash. She was the one that was arrested for the wreck after her car wrecked going 100 miles per hour into a brick wall, which ended up claiming the lives of her boyfriend at the time and her boyfriend's friend. And since then, there's been a lot that's came out. So in my last video, we talked about her disciplinary reports and all the times she's gotten in trouble in prison. There's been multiple times she's gotten in trouble for being out of place, for having sexual conduct. Then I came across this post on Instagram, which was shared by Hodge Twins, and it revealed that sources who were locked up with her, former inmates, say that she's been covered in hickeys and having multiple romances inside of prison. Well, her ex-girlfriend, ended up doing an interview with The Sun. I watched an older interview the girlfriend did like a few months ago, and then one she did like a year ago, but she just did a recent interview where she spilled a lot more tea. This is her ex-girlfriend from prison, and as soon as I saw the ex-girlfriend, I immediately thought, oh my gosh, she kind of looks like Davion. Let's talk about everything that the girlfriend spilled in her recent interview. So okay, there's a YouTube channel called Shirilla the Killer, and they are the ones that I actually got the disciplinary reports from. They've been spilling a lot of tea on Mackenzie since she was initially arrested. Well, I guess apparently, according to the ex-girlfriend, that was Mackenzie's nickname in prison. People used to call her Shirilla the Killer, and she used to love that nickname and eat it up. Like, it wasn't something that was offensive to her. She kind of took it as a champion title almost of some sort. Mackenzie would just walk around and constantly brag about her nickname to all the inmates. And her ex-girlfriend said that when she was locked up, she saw Mackenzie show zero remorse. She said she would never cry. She was never upset. She did say, okay, yeah, my boyfriend died. I lost the love of my life. And she kind of made it sound like her and Dom were about to get married. But from what we've heard, that didn't seem like the case. It kind of seemed like he had one foot out the door at the time. But, you know, I mean, if you don't have no remorse, I understand, like, being in prison, you have to put on, like, a strong front for everybody because otherwise people are going to prey on that weakness. But still, if you're really an empathetic person, there's going to be, like, a night or two where those emotions just come through if you really feel bad for the situation. I remember being locked up with this girl years ago who kind of had a similar story. She got in a car crash that claimed the life of her boyfriend, and she used to always say, oh, it was an accidental car crash, and like once or twice a month you would see her just break down crying in her bunk, and she could not hold it all together. But Mackenzie, it seems like the last time that she really seemed to get emotional, according to her ex-girlfriend, is when she was sentenced to prison. I just think Mackenzie has no empathy and is so self-centered that she doesn't really care how her actions affect anyone other than herself. And it was obvious to her ex-girlfriend that she really didn't care about Dom as much as she tried to lead on in the documentary, because she never really got upset or broke down crying over him. And the girlfriend said that when she ended up getting with Mackenzie, at the time they were in different cottages, but I guess they would let everyone out for the yard 3 times a day, and they would let all the cottages out at once, so you could meet people from different areas of the prison during the yard. And Mackenzie, I guess she had 3 girls on her list who she was attracted to, and this girl, her ex-girlfriend, was about to be getting out of prison in a week, and she ended up seeing Mackenzie talking to one of her friends who was dating Mackenzie's best friend. So Mackenzie would walk around the yard, every single yard, with this one girl, and they would just walk around and do laps. Her ex-girlfriend, her best friend, was dating Mackenzie's best friend, and Mackenzie was always just with this one girl all the time. They hung out all day, every day, and apparently, like, Mackenzie had money and this girl didn't, so this girl would help Mackenzie, like, with cooking and doing other things, and Mackenzie would share some of her commissary with her. But the ex-girlfriend said that she wasn't really able to be intimate with Mackenzie in prison that much because the guards were always watching, and Mackenzie had already gotten in trouble so many times at that point for having sexual contact and being at a place. So they weren't supposed to go to different cottages, and her girlfriend lived in separate cottages. And Mackenzie was too scared to get caught like in her girlfriend's cottage, because if she got caught again, she was going to go to the hole, and she didn't want anything to possibly mess up her appeal, because this was coming up right before Mackenzie had her appeal that she ended up getting denied. But at the time, Mackenzie was convinced that she was going to win her appeal, so she didn't want a chance getting in trouble or going to the hole again. So she was too scared to go sneak over to the girl's bunk at the time. But I guess when they would go out to the yard, they were able to kiss and make out. I guess they let all the cottages out at once, so there'd be so many women out in the yard at once, and they'd only have like 3 or 4 prison guards like actually on the ground watching them. So they would just kind of like sneak behind other girls and start kissing on each other when they wanted to kiss. And I guess eventually they'd have these guard posts where they'd have prison guards, like, you know, up high up in the air, that are all around the prison watching to make sure nobody jumps a fence or does anything crazy. Well, one of the guards from the guard post ended up catching Mackenzie and her girlfriend kissing one time, and they ended up intercoming over the speakers, "Oh, there's somebody over there kissing, there's someone over there kissing." And I guess like the other COs went running up to them, and they're like, "Hey, what's going on over here?" And they're like, "Oh no, we weren't kissing, we were just, you know, standing here." And they played dumb, and I guess they ended up not getting in trouble over it. According to the ex-girlfriend, before and after, I guess before she got with the ex-girlfriend and after she lost her appeal, she was wilding out in prison. I guess Mackenzie was known for having threesomes and messing with all kinds of different women and different bunks and showers, and that's why she had so many sexual conduct and out-of-place tickets. And I guess whenever the girlfriend did eventually get out after her and Mackenzie broke up, she was hearing from other inmates that Mackenzie got caught in the shower having a threesome with 2 other women. When the girlfriend just got with Mackenzie at the time, she said that she was scared to be too physically intimate with Mackenzie because she didn't want to chase her off, because she thought that Mackenzie was still mourning the loss of her boyfriend who had just died. But she said after just 2 days of being together, Mackenzie came to her and she's like, "Why aren't you touching me? I want you to touch all over me." And she initiated the physical contact between her and her girlfriend at the time. And her girlfriend was like, "Well, I thought you went over your boyfriend." And she's like, no, I'm fine. You can touch me as much as you want." The girlfriend was asked about what Mackenzie told her about the crash, and she said that Mackenzie pretty much was just acting like, "Hey, this was an accident." And the girlfriend was like, "Well, are the parents on your side at least?" Because she's like, "Okay, if the parents aren't on Mackenzie's side, then that's a red flag and I'm not going to mess with her." But Mackenzie was like, "No, Dom and Davion's parents are both on my side. When I go to my appeal, they're both going to be there defending me." So the girlfriend was like, "Okay, yeah, it sounds like she might actually be innocent." A week later, once the girlfriend did get out of prison, she started going to family and friends, and she's like, "Hey, can you guys help look into this case with me?" They started looking into the case, and she's like, "Yeah, Mackenzie told me that the family was on her side and she was innocent." And her family and friends were like, "No, we ended up digging into this, and that is not the case. The family turned on her after the black box came out." So then the girlfriend started to realize that a lot of what Mackenzie had been telling her was a complete lie, and she started looking at Mackenzie differently after that. I guess they continued their phone calls after Mackenzie's girlfriend was released, but she said she would ask Mackenzie questions about the crash, and then Mackenzie would ignore her questions or quickly change the subject, because she would always say, "I hate talking about the crash. I don't want to talk about it," because I'm sure it brings up a lot of unresolved feelings that she hasn't gotten over. And so the girlfriend eventually started to get annoyed, like, okay, she doesn't want to talk about the crash. I have evidence showing that what she told me was a lie. So the girlfriend started to see Mackenzie different, and she slowly started talking to Mackenzie less and less, to the point that they eventually just fizzled out. Mackenzie would tell the ex-girlfriend, "Oh, I wish we would have met sooner, and then maybe we would still be together." And she ended up getting asked about, like, Mackenzie in prison, and, like, is she was eating the food that they gave her from Chow Hall, and as she had sugar daddies. And the girlfriend claimed that Mackenzie would not eat any of the prison food. I guess one time the girlfriend was like, hey guys, hey girl, let's go down to the commissary hall and we can go eat lunch. And Mackenzie's like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. I don't eat prison food. I only eat from my commissary. And this was shocking to the girlfriend, because eating from the commissary 3 times a day can add up, especially when you're eating the intricate things that Mackenzie was eating. Like, Mackenzie would make full pizzas, and you got to buy the pepperonis, you got to buy the sauce, you got to buy the cheese, the pizza crust. And she said by the time you buy all those things, it'd be like $20 for a pizza. And then Mackenzie, her best friend at the time, she didn't have anybody sending her money, so Mackenzie would make these things and then share them with her best friend, and her best friend would just cook them in exchange for some free food from Mackenzie. But yeah, Mackenzie was getting plenty of money sent to her while she was in prison, and Mackenzie would claim that her parents would look out for her and always make sure she was straight. And it was to the point that Mackenzie was eating fresh meals in prison. Like, back when I was locked up, they didn't have these, but I guess this is something new they just started doing in the last year or two, I believe. But they have this option where you can get fresh food. You can get cheeseburgers and fries, you can get fried chicken, you can get salads, you can get all kinds of stuff that you could get out in the free world, like at a fast food restaurant, and you can buy that and get it sent into the prison. And I guess Mackenzie was getting this all the time, and I mean, no wonder people think she probably had sugar daddies. If you're spending $18 on a bean burrito for just lunch alone, and Mackenzie's girlfriend said she didn't have any evidence that Mackenzie had sugar daddies. There was a girl who was locked up with Mackenzie who did an interview, and she tried to say that Mackenzie had several sugar daddies that she got from pen pal websites, and she claimed that she got them from the same pen pal website that Ryan Anderson met Gypsy Rose on. I did a lot of research, because I know a lot of these pen pal websites just from covering people from the show Love After Lockup. I could not find any pen pal profiles under Mackenzie's name, but even then, I don't think that you would have to post on these pen pal websites to find sugar daddies. I'm sure there's plenty of simps out there who watched her documentary or watched her on one of these true crime shows, and they see a young, pretty girl and they think, oh my god, I can fix her, and they want to start reaching out to her, and all they have to do is just look up the prison to be able to start writing her. The girlfriend also pointed out that the voice that Mackenzie used when she was on the documentary The Crash was not the voice that she's used to hearing when Mackenzie was behind bars. And her ex-girlfriend is not the only person who said this. I saw another girl who was locked up with her who said the same thing, that Mackenzie kind of had this sweet, quiet, southern voice, but then when she came on the documentary, she kind of tried to make it sound like she was all hood. The ex asked Mackenzie when they were together if Mackenzie had done anything with women before she came to prison, and Mackenzie admitted that she hadn't, but when she got to prison and really had no other options, that's when she decided to start exploring women. And then Mackenzie, I guess every Friday she would go to line dancing. They'd have all these activities they could sign up for, and she would always sign up for all these dancing activities. And she said that Mackenzie would just do whatever she could to stay real busy, and she'd always have a strict schedule from sun up to sundown every single day. Honestly, that's the way to do it, though. Some people just want to sleep away their time or just lay there, but trying to stay as busy as possible is a way to keep your mind as distracted as possible when you're locked up in there. And I guess the ex ended up doing a story time. Okay, well, here's the thing. So after the ex and Mackenzie broke up, she ended up doing an interview with another girl who is locked up with Mackenzie, and all these people started sliding into her comments, and they're like, oh my god, girl, you need to do a story time. So she's like, okay, I don't really know how to do a story time, but let me see and try to do this. So she made like a couple story time videos, and after those story time videos came out and they started to get some popularity, Mackenzie started having some friends that she was locked up with on the inside reach out to her ex-girlfriend, and they were threatening her, and they were sending her her own address, like, hey, we know your address, we know your phone number, so we suggest you keep quiet and stop talking about this. So the ex-girlfriend got all scared, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna put a pause on this for now. But now she said she don't give a damn, and she's back to doing her story times, and she plans on opening up about everything. And then she said that Mackenzie didn't like talking about the crush, which we kind of pointed on earlier. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what the ex-girlfriend had to say about her experience dating Mackenzie and how Mackenzie was behind bars. I always was very curious about how she acted in prison and she was remorseful at all. But according to the girlfriend, she isn't at all. So let me know what you think about everything in the comments below. And like I said, the U.S. Sun dropped this interview on their YouTube channel. So check that out if you're interested. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching.